You'll hear about this? Aaron Rodgers, the man with the golden arm and a PhD in drama, is now wearing black and yellow. Not for a costume party, not for a commercial shoot, but for real. The four-time MVP, Mr. Ayahuasca, Mr. Hiawatha, Mr. Jeopardy. That guy is officially a Pittsburgh Steeler. And let me tell you, Unsee was watching day one of training camp like it was a premiere on Netflix. Not because I thought Rodgers was going to light the place up, but because I wanted to feel what this whole experiment was going to look like. And guess what? Yeah, now y'all know, some folks hit the panic button. I hit my popcorn bucket. Because this, folks, is what I call beautiful chaos. And I'm about to break this whole thing down like I'm dissecting a championship game film. First things first, Aaron Charles Rodgers. 41 years old. Been in this league longer than most of these young QBs been legally drinking. And he just walked into one of the most blue-collar, grit-first organizations in the NFL with that same cocky grin and zen spirit. Let's talk reality. His time in New York. Chaotic. Joel. He came in 2023, hyped to bring a Super Bowl to the Jets. And what happened? 4 plays, torn Achilles, lights out. Jets fans cried. New York media went DEFCON 1. Now fast forward a few months. And here he is, in the hills of Latrobe, Pennsylvania, back under center, this time with a terrible towel hanging on the wall and DK Metcalf on the other end of the locker room. So what's the vibe is intentional. The vibe is strategic. The vibe is redemption. Let's talk about that pick. Now, Unsee Dunn played this game. I've seen Hall of Famers throw picks in practice like candy at a parade. That's camp. That's rhythm. That's process. But Rodgers, he took it in stride. Said, good to get that out of the way. Grinned. See, when you've been to the mountaintop, an interception on July 25th don't even rattle you. That's like worrying about spilled coffee during a marathon. It ain't derailing the mission. But here's what really matters. He owned it. Didn't flinch. Didn't point fingers. That, folks, is leadership in its rawest form. And if I'm a young cat like Will Howard watching that, man, I'm taking notes like it's a Harvard lecture. Now, this DK Metcalf connection, let me tell you. This ain't just about football. This is about vibe. They linked up in SoCal during Rodgers' off-season spiritual retreat/football meditation. They ran routes in Malibu, did drills, probably talked philosophy, maybe even drank some kale smoothies. Who knows? But what I do know is that this type of bonding don't happen in odors. It happens in the trenches. It happens when you're sweating through your socks at camp, complaining about the food, and fighting for that extra rep. And Metcalf, he said it himself, tough in the beginning. Translation, it ain't perfect yet, but it don't have to be. You ain't got to be. You ain't got to be fully in sync in July. You got to be deadly by December. Let me take a second to shout out Arthur Smith. The man is doing something a lot of offensive coordinators struggle with, letting a legendary quarterback speak his truth. He gave Rodgers the mic in meetings. Said talk, share, lead. That's how you get buy-in. That's how you turn camp into a laboratory, not a lecture hall. And Rodgers, he's not just playing ball. He's coaching. He's mentoring. Now, you don't think this 41-year-old Rodgers don't know he's near the finish line? Of course he does. But instead of just riding out, he's leaving behind a blueprint. That's how you build culture. That's how dynasties stay alive. Let's not sugarcoat this. Rodgers is a one-year band-aid. A very expensive, very shiny, very iconic Band-Aid. But a Band-Aid nonetheless. The Steelers didn't bring him in for a 5-year rebuild. They brought him in to win now. This team ain't sniffed a playoff win in almost a decade. That's unacceptable in the Steel City. That ain't the standard that Chuck Noll, Bill Cowher, and Mike Tomlin built. That's why this offseason, they blew it up. Rodgers, Metcalf. A retooled O-line, new scheme, everything on the table. But make no mistake, this team don't work if Rodgers don't work. Rodgers said something I loved. One of 10 to 12 teams that can really do this. And you know what? He's not lying. This Steelers team, it's nasty on defense, led by TJ Watt, who out there looking like he eats offensive tackles for breakfast. But what's different this year is that the offense might actually help them win a game. No more quarterback musical chairs, no more short passes on 3rd and 12, no more excuses. It's go time. And if Rodgers can stay healthy, big if I know, this team becomes a problem in the AFC. This is what I love most about Rodgers right now. He ain't talking Super Bowl. He ain't wearing rings he ain't earned yet. He's talking about process, about meals together, about walks to the snack bar, about building a family. Because you don't win in January unless you bond in July. You don't make fourth quarter magic unless you sweat it through training camp hell together. Rodgers ain't making bold claims. He's making meaningful connections. And in a league full of hype, that's rare. Let me bottom line it for you all. Rodgers don't need to be 2011 MVP Rodgers. He just needs to be smart, healthy, and present. He needs to take care of the ball, make Metcalf a nightmare matchup, and guide this offense like a GPS system with 4 Super Bowls loaded into memory. The Steelers, they need to lean into the unknown. Arthur Smith needs to keep trusting him. That locker room needs to embrace the ride, because while this may be a short-term marriage, it's one that could finally break the postseason curse. And if it don't, well, at least Pittsburgh went swinging. Now listen here, Rodgers didn't walk into some fancy 5-star resort for training camp. Nah, he walked into St. Vincent College in Latrobe, Pennsylvania, a place where legends sweated, where the ghosts of Mean Joe Green and Jack Lambert still haunt the hills. Ain't no luxury out there. It's humid. It's gritty. It's Pittsburgh football. And Rodgers. He said he was happy to be on the ground floor at Rooney Hall. That ain't no coincidence, Skip. That's a sign that this man ain't looking to be pampered. He's looking to connect, to reboot. See, this ain't the New York spotlight or the Cali lifestyle. This is hard hat and lunch pail football. And Rodgers, even with all the ayahuasca and Instagram philosophy, is buying in. That says everything you need to know. Let me circle back to DK Metcalf for a second. Woo! That boy built like a comic book villain. Ain't nobody on that roster with his combination of size, speed, and dog mentality. But this ain't Seattle anymore. This is a whole new offense, new quarterback, new timing, and that's where chemistry comes into play. Now imagine this. Rodgers drops back, sees single high safety, DK breaks out on a go route, and boom. 60-yard bomb, touchdown. But that don't happen unless they trust each other. And you can't microwave trust. That's why those Malibu workouts mattered. That's why being roommates in camp matters. Rodgers and DK ain't just here to make highlights. They're here to build something dangerous. And if they click, Lord have mercy, it's going to be problems for every secondary in the AFC. Let me talk to you all about this young fella, Will Howard. Now I ain't saying he's the next Rodgers. That's unfair. But what I'm saying is that the kid has tools. He's big, athletic, and has a cannon on his shoulder. But more importantly, he's got ears. He's listening. He's absorbing. And Rodgers, he ain't trying to big-time him. He's mentoring the kid. Told reporters, if he wants to pick my brain or be in my hip pocket, I'm all for it. Now that's leadership. That's legacy building. Rodgers knows he ain't going to play forever, but he wants to pass the torch right. Not just to Pittsburgh, but to the league. And if Howard soaks all this up, Pittsburgh might have just set themselves up for the next decade. Let's get something straight. 41 ain't young in NFL years. At 41, most quarterbacks are doing podcasts, coaching high school ball, or fishing somewhere with a big hat and a Bud Light. But Rodgers, he still believes he can sling it with the best of... Sharper than ever. But here's the catch. It's not about talent no more. It's about durability. Can that Achilles hold up? Can he survive a 17-game gauntlet plus playoffs? If he does, this team is dangerous. If he doesn't, well, it's gonna be a whole different conversation by October. Now look, I've seen Arthur Smith catch heat before. Folks blamed him for everything from Kyle Pitts' production to climate change. But this time, he's in a system where everything changes. He's got a real quarterback. He's got weapons. He's got a front office willing to take risks. And he's giving Rodgers freedom. That's the key. When you got a QB like Rodgers, you don't give him a script. You give him a canvas. Let the man paint. Let him audible. Let him cook. And if Smith stays flexible, creative and humble, this offense can be one of the most unpredictable in the AFC. Let me say this loud and clear. Ain't nobody under more pressure than Rodgers this year. This ain't a rebuilding team. This ain't a wait-and-see situation. This is a team that needs to win now. Steelers fans, they patient, but they expect results. Or Mike Tomlin. You don't do losing seasons. Ever. And the front office, they gave Rodgers the keys and cleared the garage. So now it's time to drive. No more excuses, no more scapegoats. This season is about legacy. Can Rodgers still lead a team? Can he still elevate guys around him? This year gonna answer all of that. So yeah, Rodgers' first pass in a Steelers uniform got picked off. But guess what? You know who else threw picks at practice? Brady, Peyton Montana, all them dudes. All them dudes. This ain't about July, this is about January. And if Rodgers has one last rabbit left in that magician's hat, you'll better believe Unsee will be front row, watching every flick of that wrist like it's poetry. Let's ride, Rodgersburg. Let's ride, Rodgersburg, because you all just might be onto something.